Just to check, sorry in advance, I do not speak Turkish, just to check to be in English, if that's all good. Thank you. Great, thank you. So I'm Sue. Today I'm going to talk through QR code trends, best practices, use cases. Hope you have some time for questions at the end. And just to introduce myself, so I work at AppsFlyer. I'm an industry lead for e-commerce. We've actually got some of the AppsFlyer team here in the back. We've got 4 of us. So AppsFlyer is a mobile measurement partner. We have the largest market share within the industry. I actually used to be a customer of AppsFlyer, so I've worked in e-commerce for 10 years. I've worked for Net-a-Porter, Mr. Porter. I work for the Very Group in the UK, so the second largest retailer in the UK after Amazon. They turn over $3 billion a year. And I worked at, across their mobile marketing, across paid and organic, also use QR codes. And I loved AppsFlyer so much that I've come to work here, and I absolutely love the business. Within my role, so I work across EMEA and LATAM, advising best practices through e-commerce, and I get to work with these amazing brands and learn about what they're doing, what's working for them, across QR codes, across attribution, across app marketing in general. So I'm sure this will be familiar to a lot of people. This is a Coinbase ad. It's actually one of our customers at AppsFlyer, and they ran a 60-second ad during the Super Bowl, and this had 20 million scans. And within 60 seconds, they had a 300% increase in installs. So it was very, very simple, yet super effective. It was very much talked about, went viral, and it was a great piece of branding and PR for them, as well as a great generator of app installs. And then for anybody who doesn't know the history of QR codes, they were actually first created in 1994. So it was by this guy, which I was very happy that they've come back, Masahiro Hara, who worked at Denso Wave, and he actually created them to help ease the manufacturing operation process of the company that he worked at. But QR codes, something I don't think many of us thought would come back if we think back 3 years ago. And thanks to the pandemic, they're very much here. They're on our passes today, restaurants, pretty much everywhere that you can think of at the moment. But I know it's late in the afternoon, I'm sure nobody wants to speak, but does anybody know what the QR is an abbreviation or what does it stand for?
Quick response.
Yes, my favourite person, well done. So yes, quick response. I think we use QR a lot, but I think most people haven't actually thought what does it stand for. And the usage is skyrocketing, so research projects that there'll be 2.2 billion people worldwide who will use QR codes to process a payment by 2025. So not just usage, but actually as a way of making a transaction. And general QR code usage is forecast to grow by 20% in the next 3 years. So it's not just something that happened as a result of the pandemic, it's something that's definitely here to stay. And why is it becoming so popular? So obviously we talked about the start of the pandemic, and this is showing the representation of search volume of QR codes from Google Trends. And one of the reasons for that is this contactless adoption that's been across retail, restaurants, hospitality. Privacy, this is a big reason why we see an increased usage of this across e-commerce. So QR codes don't require the use of IDFA. It's a great privacy-centric way of generating installs, driving users to your app. And it's also measurable, so if you're able to attribute against those users, you can also retarget users who come through QR codes via AppsFlyer. And you have the option of deep linking as well, so there's frictionless user journeys. And we see that from an engagement perspective, so QR codes actually have the highest click-to-install rate by owned media channels, with 35% scan-to-install rate, which is huge. And again, if you think about if you're using it across parcels, offline messaging, you can use it across a lot of free channels as well. So from a budget perspective, it's a great way of driving cost-efficient installs of users for your app. And then deep linking. So I just want to talk about this in the context of QR codes and just for anybody who isn't that familiar with deep linking. So it's a way of offering contextual, smooth experiences from any channel, including these channels that you can see here, into your app. And the mechanism of sending users to the app can be that they click a link, so say it could be from an email campaign. They install the app, the app's launched, and then they then see relevant content within the app. Or for instance, if they don't have the app installed, they can then, there's something called deferred deep linking. So for instance, if in an email campaign you show a pair of shoes, and there's a 10% off, it's an app exclusive, you can send them to the App Store, and then using deferred deep linking, as soon as they open the app, they'll then see that specific product. So again, it gives us this seamless, frictionless user journey. If you think about people on mobile, you've got literally seconds to keep their attention because you've got WhatsApp notifications, social media, competitive push notifications. So how can you make sure that they get to the thing that they want to see as quickly as possible? And that's where deep linking helps from a QR code perspective as well. So this combined QR code is really effective. And the benefits are better user journey, so contextual destination, so what you're showing somebody outside of the app, actually getting them to that relevant place as quickly as possible. You can also now customize QR designs. I'll show you some in a second, but I think this is super interesting from a branding perspective as well. And again, it just helps with that engagement, actually getting people to scan the QR code. And as I showed on one of the previous slides, much better conversion rates versus some other channels to install. And better attribution, so knowledge is power, data is key when you're a marketer. So these integrated multi-touch attribution across paid and owned channels, it gives you this holistic view of all of your marketing campaigns. So actually, where have your users come from which QR codes? We have Peloton as a customer, and they actually have different QR codes set up for every single store and also some salespeople as well. And that gives them the benefit of understanding actually which store is most effective at driving app installs and app usage, and also is a great benefit for salespersons as an incentive because they can then track how many installs they've driven, and there's then a bonus tied to that as well. And you can also change the QR destination at the back end. So for instance, I've seen this before in the world of printed marketing. It's a nightmare. You print something, you realize actually that's not the right link, or maybe something changes. So you can then actually change the link on the back end without having to update the QR code itself. And then some interesting use cases in marketing. So QR code to app benefits. So that, again, it enables that direct and frictionless app install from different touch points. You can convert really large user populations into these highly engaged app users. So typically we see across e-commerce that people who have the app tend to have a high conversion rate, higher LTV. So again, it's trying to bring as many people back to the app in a seamless way as possible. And also the benefit of turning any physical or digital object into a channel for UA and engagement. And some use cases that we're seeing, so it's not just the offline printed world now, but we're seeing some really interesting use cases around connected TV, which I'll talk through in a second. Also QR codes in email, desktop as well, social media, referral activities, and even across social. And so one example of sort of quite traditional offline marketing activity would be out of home or billboards or bus stops. So this is an example of a travel business. So in this instance, someone who's waiting at a bus stop, see the ads, they scan the QR code. It takes them through to a summer vacation landing page immediately after they've installed the app. But it could be that actually they got the bus, they got distracted, they didn't continue the journey, they started to actually look at the holiday, or maybe they don't want to go to the Maldives, maybe actually they started looking at holidays to Istanbul. You could then actually create an audience off the back, and that's okay, users have come through this QR code, looked at this specific holiday destination, and you can then send a retargeting campaign to them off the back of that across owned or paid media. And then this is super interesting. So this is one of our clients, Kabam. So they had arcade machines that actually dispense playing cards with a specific offer. They had 24,000 QR codes scanned off the back of this. And the benefit is if you see like a few years ago, you just have the App Store CTAs at the bottom, which you can see next to the QR code. And you'd rely on the user to go into the App Store and try and find your app. So again, it's a great example of how easy it is to get them from that printed material through into the app. And actually the benefit of these QR codes that they unlock a playable character in app. So again, it's a unique, it's not just trying to push them to the app. It's like, what's the added value? Like, why should they do that? And in this instance, they got something that was exclusive as a result of that. And then Pizza Hut, also a client. So they were trying to get as many of their customers to install the app as possible. But one thing that they found difficult was that people who would actually go into the branch to order and didn't use any sort of online delivery service, when they tried to target them with digital-based ads, actually they didn't see that performance was that great. These are more of sort of a more traditional sort of offline consumer. So what they did instead was that when this cohort of users did make an order, they have QR codes on the boxes, also any leaflets, and also actually in the branches themselves with a CTA to actually install the app. And this is something that they run as an always-on experience now, and they have a loyalty incentive tied to this as well. So again, it's not just ask them to install the app, there's a benefit in terms of collecting points every time that they order as well. And then rise, and this particularly across the US, is starting to grow more in the UK. The benefits of this are that, there's high viewability and completion rates. There's more people who are watching on smart TVs now than ever. And again, that's growing. And you get the benefit of these high impact localized ads, and also more precise measurement versus traditional advertising. And it tends to be cheaper than traditional advertising as well. And the benefits of QR codes there, again, we've talked about sort of the Coinbase example, but also Grubhub. So they had a QR code to activate a promo code upon the app download. And again, if you think about certain TV shows, people tend to order food when they're watching something, particularly if, say, they're watching football, maybe they missed it at the time and they watch it on catch up. Again, it's a great way of being able to capture specific audiences, creating cohorts by TV show types, for instance, as well. And then desktop to app. This is one that always, I think, people are a bit skeptical about this because people think, well, why would somebody download the app if they're on the desktop? Like, why if they've got their phone with them already? But we have a few clients, so Klarna, for instance, and also Farfetch. They see quite a high conversion rate to install off QR codes on their desktop website. So in the past, you might have seen examples where there's an SMS functionality, so you can put your phone number in and it'll send you a link. That's a bit more of a long-winded journey, but this is quite, again, more of that frictionless way of getting people to install from desktop straight into the app. And other uses of QR codes that we're seeing, so like responsive QR codes on email. So if somebody's on their phone, they'll see a CTA that just takes them through to the app or the app store. But on desktop, actually having it be responsive, that shows a QR code. And also paid web to app as well. So another way of being able to generate app traffic from desktop advertising. But there are other options. So there's been quite a few, use of drones for QR codes. It's getting very creative. And the options are definitely limitless in terms of how you can use QR codes. So if you think about customer experience and user journeys, it's not just getting them, again, to the app, but actually you can pre-populate that journey in certain ways. So if somebody was to scan a QR code, you could pre-populate it with a specific text. That was going to link them through to a social channel like Twitter. You can pre-populate emails with a specific subject and a message. You can automatically connect them to the Wi-Fi. You can automate customer service text and open a chat bot. You want people to attend as well. So again, it goes beyond just trying to get somebody to install and use the app, but actually thinking about how they can engage with you across different user points. And then some best practices. So always recommended to use a 5-pixel minimum border to ensure that it is scannable, making it big and legible. So think about actually the placement of this. Is it going to be on something that's like a small leaflet versus, I don't know if anyone's going to activate any drone activity, but again, thinking about the size of this, making sure that it's high contrast and it's easy to scan. In terms of UTM parameters, so using shorter links again for better scannability, using a deep linking provider for better customization, activation, attribution, and then being able to customize and test the design, so edit the branding to increase trust. And also, again, it helps with all of the brand identity and increasing the likelihood of someone actually scanning the QR code itself. And the most important thing is testing. So across different teams, if you're an iOS user, ensuring that you have someone in your team who has an Android device, or making sure that, again, it's fully tested before you actually roll it out, especially if it's on printed activity. And then in terms of the future of QR codes, so again, we think it will go beyond user acquisition. We think it will be used more for branding, word of mouth retention, product information. This one's super interesting from a sustainability perspective. So we have a client in the UK called Gymshark. They do like athleisure wear. They're also big in the US. And they've removed the swing tags that you get when you actually order a product. And the reason for that is to help, again, reduce their carbon footprint. But now what they're doing is any product information is actually on the clothing, the fabric tag itself instead. And there's also a pharmacy drugstore retailer in the UK called Superdrug, and they're now removing the boxes on beauty products. And again, there's quite a lot of product information that legally they have to include, and they're having QR codes on the products instead. And it's a great way of being able to actually drive users back to certain touch points and help re-engage them through their app. Digital platform expansion, which I mentioned, so CTV, web to app, and then augmented reality. So we think that the use of QR codes within the metaverse is still in sort of early stages, but we think that there'll be some interesting use cases there and further innovation. And then just some questions for you to consider within your business. So where can you see it fitting within your existing marketing strategy or campaigns, and any missed opportunities today? So if you have parcel wrapping, for instance, like that goes out to every single person who makes an order. Like, can you add a QR code there? How would you structure a QR code creative testing strategy? So don't just, again, be creative. Actually, what can you do versus the sort of standard QR code that sort of we've got here today? Actually, can you do something different? What are the benefits of somebody actually scanning that? So what's the next action that you want them to take? How has iOS 14.5's measurement restrictions impacted any of your marketing strategies? Are you focusing more on owned media, deep linking, and QR codes replace some of that? And also, are you tracking those users who install the app from QR codes? I speak to a lot of businesses who use free online QR code generators, which is my bugbear. And actually, they can't track the users that have come from that. They can't retarget them. So it's really important, like, actually, how are you tracking that journey? And that's it for me. If there's any questions? No, all good. Yeah, lots of smiley faces. Okay. Thank you so much, Liz. Thanks for bearing my English as well. No Turkish. Thank you.